Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Entrepreneur Factory weekly training. You have both Boyd and myself in the house, Boyd and Jim Carroll, representing bpmedia.com and E2 Total Solutions. Today, we're going to talk about something that's interesting. It's the Google My Business.
The 10 most common local business problems.
Exactly.
Google My Business.
Yeah. So, and the question is, how do you overcome those? They can all be overcome. We've both been helping clients recently. There's always updates and stuff, but how do you stay current and get rolling with those? So Boyd, why don't you start us off and we'll all jump in.
Well, one of the most interesting ones is there's over 1/3 of all Google My Business accounts have not been claimed. There are businesses that Google has found out there that are local businesses, and yet no one has claimed them. So if you're a local business, you have, whether it be an online business or even a local business that has a brick and mortar store, you need to go and find out if your business is on Google My Business and claim it. There is a time or a possibility that you've claimed your business, but maybe the spelling is slightly different than what Google has for you. Got to claim the one that they have for you and then get it updated. And in fact, I have a customer that today I was updating. Somebody keeps changing and saying he is at a different address, and they just changed the address all over the place in the Salt Lake Valley. And they're legitimate addresses, but not his. And so it's an interesting thing. And so we've put in a lock on their address and phone number so that no one else can change that. But it's funny that it would happen. But just simply just going in and claiming it is really the first step to getting your Google My Business to give you more business, more traffic to your website. So you got to go in. Now, here's the thing. When you go in and you sign up, it's going to ask you to verify your account. Do this. Now, at first, they're going to ask if they can mail to your business address a postcard. And when you get that postcard, you go back into it and it'll tell you where to go. And then you just simply say, here, I got the postcard at this address. That's how they verify if your address is correct for your business and that you are a legitimate business. So be sure to do that and verify it. Now, if you
I want to jump in here real quick. It's kind of interesting because people, have like run their business from their home, have the opportunity not to tell people where you live. You do need to send that postcard to your home. I mean, if you're running your business out of the trunk of your car, that's entirely different. At the same time, you do need that verification. Google will not accept you as a legitimate business unless you have a postal address that they can send that postcard to.
That's correct. And so you've got to make sure to give them that address. Now, once you've verified it, you can go in and there's a little checkbox underneath your address to say, I don't want businesses or people coming to my business. Mm-hmm. And so, but you've got to have it turned on until it's verified. Mm-hmm. And then you can turn it off. And then from there, in order so you can get business, leave the zip code and the city name in there, but then go in and tell it all the places that you do business. So if you're in the Salt Lake Valley, you might say, I do business in Murray, I do business in, and you can put all those things, or you can say, I do Salt Lake County, Utah County, Weber County, Davis County, so that they understand where you're doing business, even though you don't have an address.
Agreed.
Okay. In fact, that might even be I think it's one of the 10 that we're going to get to in a few minutes anyway. Okay. But you want to claim your business. And once you do, and you verified it, then you've got the first step done. That's it. And that's, 1/3 of businesses are still unverified. Okay. So should we go on to number 2?
Yes.
Number 2 is adding the correct business hours. Now, this is important because if somebody goes to your location and you put in there, you're open from 7 to 7 and no one's there at 7 o'clock, they then will report to Google that you're not there. And that will raise a red flag to Google and say, hours are incorrect. Much of the information must be incorrect too then. So,
You know, I'm going to inject again. I get to jump in every time. What's important would be that you like have special holiday hours. We just went through the Christmas season, and if you said you're open, whatever, 7 to 7, and you were going to be closed on the 24th, Google notices that you changed your hours. Like, I'm not going to be here Christmas Eve. I'm not going to be here on New Year's Eve or whatever. So Google pays attention to the frequency that you are saying, yes, I changed my hours, or yes, I'm not going to be here, or yes, I'm not open on Martin Luther King Day. All of those things are important, and Google pays attention to that. So go in and frequently, be honest and say, I'm not going to be, if your kids have a baseball game, I don't really care. Say, I'm not going to be here, from 4 o'clock on, because Google doesn't care why. They just want you to be honest and transparent.
and don't change your normal hours, change the additional hours. So you can turn off hours that you normally would be there, like for Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, or maybe you've got a party that you're doing for your employees. It doesn't matter what it is. Just go in there and say, hey, these hours were going to be closed for an event, whatever it might be. But
Agreed.
tell them what's going on so that if someone shows up and they say, hey, they're not here, then Google looks at it and says, we think there's a problem there. And so it gives you a red mark and a flag that flags your business. And so you don't want to have any negative experiences by anyone anyway. Because if you have somebody, if you're an auto body shop and they travel down there to pick up their car at 6:45 and you're closed, they're going to put that as a negative content or negative experience, and that will go against you with Google. And so you've got to be careful to put your correct hours. And if you're not going to be there at a certain time, then let them know. And it'll tell them when people go in to search for them, especially if they're going to the maps section and they say they're going to go there, it'll come up and say, this business is closed. And you're going to have to go, oh, I can't go there then. And they can call or whatever needs to be done. Okay. All right. So anyway, going on to number 3. You have to list your business in the right category. Now, this one is kind of hard in some cases. I've got a couple businesses where the exact category isn't there. So you've got to find one that's very similar to it. And I'll give you an example of that. So there's a company that I work with that's a gutter company. They put gutters up and they put gutter covers. There isn't one for just putting gutters up. Gutter cleaning, it's not there, but gutter covers is. So go figure why they put gutter covers and not putting gutters up there. But you've got to put in what so they do gutter covers as well. So they put that in. And so you got to have some kind of a category. Otherwise, you're not going to be found when somebody looks for gutter cleaning. It will then associate gutter cleaning and gutter covers and putting gutters in all together. And so find the one that's closest to you. And so that's good. And you can put in 2 or 3, or you can put up to 10 categories that you do. So I have an auto body shop and they put, engines and transmissions, and they put in a lot of different things. And so, oil change, all of those things. And so they have all 10 categories filled up. Others, they may only have 1 category. That's fine because you're specializing. Okay.
Very good.
All right. Now, the next one is add some photos. A lot of people just simply set up their Google My Business and then they leave it. There are 3 different areas you really need to pay attention to. Google My Business is a social media site as well as and information gathering, and will work with Google My Business or with Google on your business. Okay, but if you don't add your own photos in there, you're doing yourself a disservice. And you should be adding a photo about every month or two. And then the other two areas you need to be paying attention to, and I think they're the next ones coming up, is you need to also put a cover on it. That's the thing that, like on Facebook, you see your cover and then you got the logo. You want to have that cover up there. You also put together a video and put up there, because it'll take
There's
all
a
three.
couple of things that are important here. Having that cover photo also changes your cover photo on Facebook, unless I'm completely mistaken.
No,
It does, I think it does, but either way,
not on Google My Business.
yeah, it'll change the cover photo on Facebook. In addition to that, having frequent photos, you should try it, Boyd. You're looking at me like
I'm
crazy.
looking at mine, and they are different. So,
Well, I've seen it change them both before.
okay.
So either way, but having recent photos is very, very important to you, in the sense that Google knows that you're active. You know, Boyd said change it, add a photo every month. Well, if you add a photo every week, that tells Google that you are active, that you care about what's going on the internet, that you want to share these things with your clientele. So, more than once every other month, I would recommend adding photos, adding a video, changing things, so that Google can see on the Google My Business page that you're active, that you're sharing with your clients.
And to go along with the video, I would recommend, and this is one of the things that we're telling you right now with it's a problem area that Google has identified, and that is do a virtual tour of your business or do a 360-degree view. Most cameras will do that now on phones, but virtual tours are great. And if you take just 30 seconds to a minute to do a tour of your small business, that's great. You want to be able to do that, and it will really help. Now, this is exceptionally well if you have a restaurant or a hotel or anything where you have an atmosphere there that draws people in. That's what Google's looking for as well. Now, they don't really care about your manufacturing facility as much. They want to see it a little, but what they're really looking at is, show them the front office, show them the conference rooms and other business offices that people will be visiting, because they want to show people what it's like. They don't want to see that you look like you're a mangy type of business where you walk in and it doesn't look like you vacuumed and done anything in the business building for a decade or so. So that's what they're looking for. But do something like this. And then if you do the 360-degree view of it, it's even better, because people love to take those little tours and see what they're going to be getting into.
And video is becoming more and more powerful across the board. Google likes video. You can post it in a variety of different places, and then they get to see who you are, who they're dealing with, who the company is. But video is important. Don't by any stretch ever discount the importance of that. Google understands video.
One thing also, when you're doing a video and you have put people in it. I mean, it's great to show the building, but put people in it and identify them. So, hey, this is the receptionist. This is who you're going to meet when you first walk in our building. Here is the sales manager and his team, or whatever it might be. Identify them and give names. People love to know names, and they'll actually, if you give them a name, they're 30% more likely to utilize you than if you don't give them a name. So that's important. Okay. The next one is really important. This is one of the strongest things you must do, and that is get Google reviews. Okay. And reviews are they're done several different ways. Google the search engine only looks at 2 different places for reviews and pays attention to them. You can have reviews on all kinds of other places, but Google only pays attention and gives you credits for your Google score so that they'll give you more business if you have Google reviews and Facebook reviews. Now, the reason why those 2 are important, you must sign in order to leave a review. If you sign in and you leave a review and you're not really a customer of them, they can verify that. They can also verify a lot of other things, but they need to have that sign in. So if you go to Yelp or some of the others that take your, Golden Spoon or TripAdvisors, those are all great for your industry, but Google doesn't pay any attention to them for your reviews. So do the Google review and the Facebook reviews. Now, also on Facebook, be careful. There's also Facebook recommendations. Recommendations, you don't have to sign in. In fact, you can put in recommendations that people have emailed to you, and so it's not actually verified by your customer, and that's why they don't pay attention to recommendations. They do to reviews. Okay, so those are important. And when you get a review, make sure that you're going to talk to them and answer it back. If you get a 5-star review that just simply is a 5-star review, just say thank you. But if they say anything more than that, for every 2 lines that they give, you should give 1 to 2 lines of response to them. If they're telling a story about how you helped them do something, then go in and acknowledge that story, that experience, and acknowledge them and thank them for it. And be sure to help them understand that you did care about that customer. Goes a long way. Now, one last thing, if you get a negative review, Jim, what do you do when you get a negative review?
You absolutely ignore it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, yeah, no.
The answer to that question is do not by any means ignore a negative review. What you need to do is respond to that review. And there's a couple of responses that you can have. You can say, gee, I'm really sorry that you had a negative experience. Please forgive us and come back and try again. I'm going to tell you a quick story. I know Boyd hates stories, but I'm going to tell you,
really,
but I'm going to tell you a quick story. I had a client in New York City, and they got a terrible negative review from from somebody, and they did the appropriate thing. They responded and said, we're so sorry that you feel that way. Would you please come back and try us again? And we're going to invite you into the kitchen, because the reviewer said, oh, I think it was dirty, and I didn't think it was clean, and I think there was a bunch of problems. So they invited him back into the kitchen with them, and he went back into the kitchen, and they make pizzas and sub sandwiches, and everything was spotless. And he didn't realize that before. And he made a pizza, and they used the best ingredients. And then they, saw him make a sub sandwich, and everything was fresh and clean and stuff. And then they delivered them to the clients. And he came back and changed his review, changed it from a negative, from a 0 to a 5+. Said, I was mistaken. These people are awesome. Their kitchen is so clean. Do such a great job. And so Google saw that he had changed it from a 0 to a 5, and rewarded them accordingly. I mean, it's a great story. If Boyd has stories about receptionists picking their teeth or being offensive or whatever, and but if you can turn a customer back into your favor, it is immeasurably successful and a great idea, because most of us all have great companies and we all have off days, but at the end of the day we want to have a positive review. So focus on that and help turn your customers around.
one of the things you can remember to do is when you get a negative review, find out why. Now, sometimes they'll tell you in the review, sometimes they won't. I was dealing with a company the other day who got a review, and the review said that this person showed up or didn't show up. And then the very next thing they said, and when he came to do the work, he didn't know what he was doing. Well, wait a minute. He didn't show up or he did show up. It doesn't make a difference. You gotta go one way or another. And if he showed up to do the work but didn't know how to do the work, that's really a difficult thing. Turns out it was a competitor that had written this because they wanted to get the line of products that he had, and they weren't allowed because he had the ownership of it here in the Utah market. And so they were trying to tear his business down. And so we helped him go and talk to, we didn't know who the person was, but what we did was we then wrote on there, we don't know who you are. We've never missed an appointment, and we're sorry that this has happened. Can you please tell us where you are, what your address is? And it was crickets. So then, of course, what we did right after we did the review, the response, is we went in and said, this is a suspicious review. We don't know who this customer is. We have never received any information from a person at this address. They had an email address that we could look up, and we don't have any clue. We suspect it is either a past employee, but we doubt that. We think it's probably one of our competitors trying to disparage us. It was taken down in 24 hours, and a note put up that there was a negative review that was deemed illegal and was fraudulent. That's what it was. And that tells a lot. But the other side of that is, even if it had been correct, how you respond to a negative review will help bring more business than having 5-star reviews. So, and so that's what, he mentions the one about the secretary. I'll tell you that story because it is an important one. So there's a printing company that I work with, and they had a receptionist that was very new, like less than 2 weeks that she'd been there. And so a customer, really good customer, came in to pick up their print order, and the girl is on a telephone call when the person arrives. Well, she's in a bit of a
I said
hurry.
picking her teeth, but
What?
I said she was cleaning her teeth, but you're
Wasn't
accurate.
cleaning her teeth. She was on a phone call.
I
So,
know.
okay, she's on this phone call, and she then just simply points the single finger like, "One, give me a minute." Well, then the lady who's walked in the door realizes she's talking to a friend about what they're going to do tonight. Okay, making plans for the night. Well, after 1 minute, just a minute, points of her finger, and this lady's getting pretty mad now. The girl finally gets off the phone, goes and gets the order, gets her taken care of. Well, she gives them a 1-star review. Says the printers are wonderful, everything, but their customer service sucks. Okay. And so he calls me and he said, "What do we do?" And I says, "Have you called her?" "No." And I said, "Well, let's call her and find out what happened." She told us a story of the lady at the front desk. Well, the lady at the front desk had never been a receptionist before. She had never gotten any training. And so she didn't know what to do. So what we did was we had her coach, or his coach that he has that helps him with his business, and he sit down with this girl, and they taught her how to be a good receptionist and deliver when people walk in the door. Well, then they called this customer back and said, "Okay, we've done this. We're so sorry for this. We've gone out of our way to make sure this new person, we were thinking of firing her, but we decided we'd train her, but we'd like you to test her out. We're going to give you our most elaborate business cards that we make." And they're about $150 for 500. And we're going to give that to you for free. And so you just send us in your design. We're going to print them. Then when you come in, I want you to see if this girl is better. And she was. She was very attentive to every customer that walked in. And it was a busy day, the day this lady walked in. And she was not ignored. She was not, said, oh, wait a minute, I got them in front of me. She then took care of them and called someone else up to help her. This is, so how you take care of your customer is a big thing on negative reviews, because now they get more people who come to them and say, I saw that negative review, but how you took care of that customer by apologizing and getting, and he put in there exactly what they did to correct the problem. That really goes a long way. So ask for reviews and don't get discouraged when you get a bad one, because there's, like Jim said, there's sometimes you have an off day, or maybe something happened, or like in the case of one of my clients, it was a mistaken identity. It was a coffee shop that's here in Salt Lake, and there was another coffee shop out of state, and
It was in Boston.
Boston, that's it.
So, but they had identical names, and so they were confusing the reviews. So don't get upset, but address them. Do not ignore them.
Exactly. It's a big mistake to ignore them. Okay. All right. Next thing up is respond to those reviews. We just mentioned that, so I'm just going to go on from there. And then they have a thing called the post feature. This is kind of a new thing. And so what they do is they're almost mandatory, but Google My Business Marketing uses these extensively. And so you post different things that you have for sale or what you're doing. And it's kind of like a mini sales page for items at a time. One of my clients who does auto repair shop, he puts up different things, and he'll put up, here's what our feature for this week is. And it has helped him bring in additional people, especially when he does the oil change one. And he does the emissions and inspection, doesn't get as much, but oil changes he does. He also gets them when he puts in free tire rotation or things like that. And so look into that. And it's something that will add to, when you look in your in Google Maps, this will be something that can show up. And especially if you're saying this is going to run for X amount of time, bang, it shows up for that X amount of time when somebody's looking for an oil change in your neighborhood. Okay. Now,
I'm sorry, I was leaving a review for somebody.
Oh, good. Okay. For me, I hope. No. All right. The next thing is, I mentioned this before. You've got to merge any duplicate accounts or listings. You also must make sure that you don't have multiple. Jim, why don't you tell them about what happened when you moved from Heber to Davis County and then back to Heber and now in Salt Lake?
My life is chaos. But I lived in Heber City for 20 years and then moved to Kaysville, and didn't get all of my accurate information, moved to Kaysville, and then moved back to Salt Lake City, and then moved to Orem, and then moved to Eagle Mountain, which is all Utah centric. But I did not keep my addresses current inside of Google My Business, and I took a hit from an organic perspective, from a realistic perspective, because Google couldn't understand that I lived in Heber City for so long, and then all of a sudden was in Kaysville, and then moved to Orem, and then moved to Eagle Mountain. Organically, my optimization or my site took a hit because there was confusing information. It was my failing a little tiny bit. I have now established address, and establish email, not an email, but where you can send postage to me and all those things. But Google was very confused for a time that I was not where they thought I should be or where I said I was going to be. And it was my failing. I mean, I made a mistake and didn't keep it current, and my life was chaotic at the time, but that's not an excuse. That is life, and we all go through, and experience some trauma or changes in our life. You need to keep your Google listing, current. So,
And one of the things that happened with this is it had all 5 of his addresses.
mhm,
And so it didn't know when somebody said, give me E2 Total Solutions, it had no idea which one was correct, so it wouldn't give you any.
mhm.
And so now that's okay. It's not good when they're looking for E2 Total Solutions, because then it'll actually give you all of them and say, well, here they all are. But when somebody's looking for SEO help, he'll never show up because it doesn't know which one to give.
I
And
agree.
so
That's absolutely correct.
you got to have the right address so that it will know which one to give. And that leads into the last one here is consistent citations.
Mhm.
Okay. What is a citation, Jim?
I'll tell you what a citation is. There's websites that you want to be listed on, and there's the gamut is all over the place. And there's the National Society of Chamber of Commerce. There's banks.com. There's Yelp. And if you have a listing on all of those sites, Google goes out and checks those listings, and they go out about once a month and check those listings. So if you have a listing on, I'm gonna, throw this up in the air, let's say cartalk.com, and you have a list, you're an auto mechanic and you have a listing there. I mean, that's cool. That's good, right? But if you don't show up like months 2, 3, 4, and 5, and that seems odd to them. So what has to happen is a citation need to be listed on the site, and then you need to touch that citation or touch that listing every single month so that it looks like you're current or you're active. If you don't touch that with some frequency, then you appear inactive. And Boyd kind of threw this out, but I'm just going to say it. So we have a product that you can appear active. It goes out, our product goes out and touches all of the sites every single month. And right now we're pushing over 200 citation sites for banks.com, national e-commerce, CarTalk, Yelp, all those things. And if you're a business, there's businesses that you want to pick and choose. Like if you're on Yelp and you're a restaurant, you absolutely want to be on Yelp. If you're an automotive shop, I mean, CarTalk is more important. If you're a national business, then the National Chamber of Commerce might be more important. But we can help you pick and choose those battles. And like I say, there's about 200 citation sites now that Google checks. So do not discount citations in any way, shape, or form.
Right. Now, you're not going to appear on every one of these because
No.
banks.com is not going to put you on unless you're a bank or a credit union or a financial institution of some description.
Correct.
Same thing with some of the others. I was looking at the list the other day, and I only appear on 85 of the 200 listings. And as I was going, oh my gosh. And then as I started looking at them, I'm going, well, there's a reason I'm not on all of those, because they don't apply to me. And so, but you got to be on all the ones that do apply to your type of business. This goes along with what your business, you put as your business type is, and then it looks at it and they understand I'm not a bank. And so that's what they're not going to punish me for that.
Yeah. So a restaurant is not a bank. An automotive shop is not a bank. But a financial planner might be considered a bank, or a bank is certainly a bank. So there's areas, unfortunately, Boyd, you're not going to qualify. You don't belong
Oh,
on all
I
200,
don't know
but,
why.
but you belong on 85 of them. So,
And there's some of them that you're just that are really very specific to an area too. I was looking at there, and there was one that is there's a specific one that is really for anybody who lives along the coast of the Caribbean.
mhm.
I don't live on the coast of the Caribbean. I live in the mountains of Utah, and
Wait, we all want to live on the
I
coast of
know, yeah.
the
But
Caribbean.
being in the Chamber of Commerce one is important for every type of business. And so if you're not on that, and most people go, oh, there's a National Chamber of Commerce site. Yes, there is. You should also
Mhm,
be in the local ones, because
mhm.
they will then look at that. And those are the ones that will give you backlinks as well. And those are important to Google, to your website, not so much for Google My Business. But those are things to pay attention to. Make sure you've got your citations all found and updated. Now, here's the other thing with it. They all must have the exact same information. So if you put your phone number as bracket 801 bracket space and then the rest of your number with a dash in it, but on some of them you put 801 dash in the rest of your number, then Google gets confused and they say this is incorrect, because
But
it
What,
needs
what, what happens
exactly
is
the
there's
same.
conflicting information.
Exactly.
So if you use, I'm just going to say this, or a product, um, it automatically updates everything so that they're all
Yeah.
the same. So having that continuity is important as far as having Google understand who and where and what you are.
And like when you have a street address that has a north or south, east or west in it, if you put a W or a west, it doesn't matter as long as all of them are the same. If you have a lane, LN works great, or LANE works great. Street, ST or STREET. You've got to make them all the same. And then Google loves you. That's the citations. Because if your citations are conflicting, then Google goes, I wonder which one is right. And it has not got the capability, it probably does, but they choose not to use it, of updating from N to north or from Lade to LANE. And so, but just make sure they're all the same, and then you don't have a problem. And this is,
Important thing here is that you're making Google happy, and
yes,
that's the whole point of this whole instructional video, is that at the end of the day, you really, really, really have to help Google understand who you are, what you do, and make them happy. So it's interesting that we end kind of with citations. That citations are the end goal in my little world of optimization, that we want Google to clearly understand who you are, and what you do.
right. And when you're a local business, it is so important for all of the local citations to find you. And there are lots of local citations. Now, we mentioned there's 200, but some of those are very specific to an area, like I mentioned the one. But your local chamber of commerce is also, they just simply call it local chamber of commerce. And then they look for the local chamber of commerce in your area or around your area. And if you don't belong to any of them and haven't got your information on any of them, because some of them will allow you to put it in anyway. And if you don't belong to any of them, they don't let you put it in the national directory. But if you can get into the local, that's great. Most cities, the Google recognizes the city as having your address correct as well. So that's all part of this citation thing. So be careful with it, and it works. Now, we're going to tell you one thing. If you would like to have a listing of your citations and what is going on with them, please get a hold of either one of us, and we will be glad to get a citation report for you and a Google My Business report. and it'll tell you more about what's going on with your Google My Business and your citation. Okay, thank you. And to get a hold of us, you can send to Jim at jim@e and the number 2-ts.com. If you want to get a hold of me, it's Boyd, B-O-Y-D, at bpmedia.com. And we'll be glad to get you that citation report and Google My Business evaluation report.
And of course, this is always sponsored by Entrepreneur Factory.
Yep.
And SEO on 360 and BP Media and E2. So reach out to us. You guys, we're here to help you. We want to focus on helping you guys. So please have a great afternoon. And I think that's our training for today.
That is our training for the day. Thank you very much for being with us.